Well, good morning, everyone. As you've heard, I was asked to deliver the message today, and Greg kind of went over this. I was saying, who am I? I mean, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be a deacon, right? But the Lord has ideas, and you don't want to fight, kick against the pricks, if you will. Okay, so I'm not a theologian, I'm not a scholar, I'm just one of you folks. Okay, but I did seek the Lord, and He put something on my heart. I think for all of us, and that includes myself. When I first started, heard about this, and started seeking God, there was 3 words, the same word, 3 times, kept coming, that holy, holy, holy. And in Revelation 4, verse 3, the latter half of that is, holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Now, part of what I think the Lord was trying to put on my heart to convey, and it's sort of hard. I struggled with this. We're so casual, and maybe that's not even the right word, but you talk of God, you talk about who He is. If He came down and just opened up His presence, you'd see what I mean. You'd quake in your seat, you'd fall on your face. It's an awesome thing to come into the presence of God. And there's also a similar passage in Isaiah 6:3, the latter part. It says much of the same thing. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of His glory. And if you look, you can see it. It's a perception thing, and it's preparing your heart thing. And we'll get into that more a little bit later. Now, the golden rule that we've heard of in Luke chapter 10, verse 27, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, that contains the whole gospel. Okay, we're not under the law, we're under grace, but that's the fulfillment of all of it right there. But that's a big charge. Okay, so I don't know what will trigger for you trying to get a better idea of who God is, and to make it real, that you can get a sense of His greatness. There's a lot of attributes God has. Power, being all present, being that you can go through. So it's tough to wrap your arms around all of that and then scale it correctly, because He's not like anything else. You have no other reference really to go by. Sometimes you'll be reading your Bible, and there's a passage will jump out at you, and it kind of gives you a sense of who He is, or you kind of feel his presence, and it's important to maybe not right at that time, maybe at that time, but to chew it over. We used to have a brother, George Allen, here. He was a farmer, like a cow ruminates. You just chew it over and over and ponder it. Think of it in your mind, and it will help you to give God his just due in the right respect, okay, and just awe. The Bible talks of it as fear of the Lord, and it's not a, oh, I'm frightened of the bully down the street kind of thing. It's, if you have had an experience, come across some big event, some awesome power, something, you know what I mean. You don't have to be told, okay? And like I said, it's perspective, but we're talking about a spiritual reality that it's easy to miss. You know, our physical, you can touch it, well, you can't control it. You can't just say, oh, I'll get a soda, or I'll get a, you can't just turn it on and off, okay? It's a walk, it's a developing, excuse me, it's a developing increase of your knowledge and in practice, and all of those kinds of things. So we need to strive to grow and to be better and better, and we need to tell others about that. Once you discover the truth of it, and you see how fantastic it is in the deal we're offered, like, it was up there, in the songs. Who am I? Who am I? And I'm saying everybody personally, what does God take a notice of me for? Why am I so important? But you are. I don't know why. That's his will. That's his love. Okay, so once we know that, it should start becoming natural to live it, to tell others, not in a forceful way where, when you're an early Christian, you catch on to this, you kind of be like, some people call them Bible thumpers and everything. Well, it's not like that, but it naturally comes up. You have a problem, you're in a mixed crowd, you have a problem, something fixes it. Thank the Lord, praise the Lord. Well, why are you saying that? Well, let me tell you why, okay? Or something, I recently was on a service call, and the customer was having these medical problems. We were talking about Lyme disease, and, well, I personally had Lyme really bad, okay, where I couldn't stand on my left leg. Couldn't put my weight on my left leg. So to walk, I had to roll through the left leg and kind of limp along like that. Okay, excuse me here. That was about 1.5 years, okay? Gone to the doctor, this, that, and the other thing, right? Well, I forget why, we weren't in here. We were actually where we're gonna have the fellowship, but we were having the services over there. And Pastor Jack was still here. And at the end of the message, I'm sitting in my chair because I wasn't in a hurry to get up. I planned every step. PJ came from one side, and Brother Greg came from another side. And they both said the same thing, that the Lord told them to pray for me. And sorry, that's just me. But they did, and I could stand on my left leg, just like that. Other times it's slow. I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm 18 again and I can, to this day I can't be stupid. If I'm gonna kneel on hard things and stuff, the leg's gonna act up if I push it and whatnot. But I can walk again. Well, anyway, this guy's telling me this, so I just shared that. And I'm up front, and I says, you may or may not understand this. You can do what you want with it, but here's what happened to me, right? You can't take that away from me, right? That's true. I'll go to my grave defending that. But anyway, that's how we should be. We should tell others, and we should tell our kids, okay? Teaching our children, it's It's what God expects of us. We don't want to be lazy. We don't want to be casual. And I'm not trying to guilt anybody out, okay? Because it's take it, let it stew in your heart, and God will quicken it, or he won't. And if he doesn't, I strongly suspect you have a little stubborn spot there, because it's clear in his word. We'll get to that a little later. And the other thing about us, if you have an experience, okay, it's marvelous, it's wonderful, it's scary, it's awesome, whatever it might be, but your emotions are up and it's clear. But then time passes. And it's not that you've forgotten, but boy, when you're living in it, I mean, recently we just had this earthquake, right, the other day. And up here, people are, I missed it. I was sitting in the dentist's office. I never noticed it, right? Other people felt a little bit, not a big deal. But at work, they were on a con call all over the people down in New York City, down closer to the epicenter. They were thinking of bailing out of their house, like what's going on, what's happening, right? But even with that, as excited as they were, in a while that will fade, okay? So the thing is, in your Christian walk, sometimes you'll get these revelations and God will speak to you, this is great, and you don't want to walk away, but that's today's fresh bread, okay? You can ponder that and carry it so far, but after a while, it's not that it went bad, but you can think of it as going stale. You need fresh bread for the next day or the next week, wherever you're at in time. You can't just have one experience and then kick back and ride, right? It's an active thing. God, he expects us to engage. We're talking about a relationship. It can't be one way. You've got to humble yourself, humble your heart, contritely come before him, try to listen, and let him work. And sometimes it takes more time. God has his timings on things. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's not. But if you pursue it, he's promised that he's going to come alongside. Because remember, if you've heard the good news and you've accepted that, okay, we won't get into what it means to be saved and how you got saved and like that. But if that has occurred, if it hasn't, come talk to me afterwards, okay, if you want to know. But you do that, and that's the start of that relationship. But then you need, just like anything else, if you have a friend, if you're married, if with your kids, if you never speak to them, you never do anything with them, it doesn't work, right? God, he expects you to try to see, and there's always more. Not only is there always more, but in the same places you got a lot of meat, let's say, out of something. There's depth, okay, to the same places. You'll circle around, you can read, a section, be very familiar with it, it's blessed you, and then suddenly you see something, and it's like, whoa, and then you start digging around that, or cross-referencing, or, doing that pondering, ruminating, and things start to fill out. Okay, so just to try to give you a little sense of where we are and who we are, and there's no, what are you going to do to compare to God, right? But just to kind of help along that journey, I picked this thing off the internet, and Elliot will put it up here. So the first one, number one, to the right is earth. Look real close and see yourself, okay, just to start. So who you are, how big you are, greatest athlete, poorest writer, whatever you are, really on that scale, really doesn't matter a lot. And then you go to the next one, number two, the small dot, that's Earth. Now you're still in planets. So to the right is Jupiter. Then you come to three, that small dot, that's Jupiter. Okay, and you start getting into stars and on through it. This one is that little dot. The big one here is this little dot. The big one here, not a tiny dot, but it's still a lot smaller. There's huge things. Now try to look at that one and find yourself on Earth. I mean, our minds can't even, it's tough to grab how big that is. Okay, when I was in the Navy, we got in the middle of a typhoon. You just don't know. You know, the power and the earth shaking and the thunder and the seas, it was, right? That's nothing. It's nothing. You know, it's something, but compared to God, it's just the kind of immense power. And that's power. See, the thing is, God has that, but it's also the intensity of his love. If you come into his arms, there's all that power and all that, but you can feel so secure that it doesn't matter. It's like the water off a duck's back. Things are going on, things are happening, but it's okay, Daddy's got me, all right? You know, and it can be like that. There's just, you need to try to get a grasp that will really help you, and to try to do it daily, and then go out in your day. I mean, morning is always best, okay? Some people, their constitution a little harder, this, that, and the other thing, but it's best to get that, and then walk forward out into whatever kind of headwind or issue or thing is gonna, you know, gonna happen. Okay. You know, and that back to who we are, to be granted the privilege, and I don't want to sound, you know, corny, but it is a privilege that if you've accepted that free gift, you have the right to be a child of God, okay? That he's listening. He's waiting for you. He wants to hear you. It's not like, you know, dental medical these days. You got to make an appointment 6 months out or something. It's not like that. It's whenever you need it, he's there, okay? So, shifting gears here, you know, now that we're trying to see who God is and really understand his awesomeness and, you know, be respectful and keep him in our mind. But last week, we celebrated Resurrection Day. Now, Easter is a proper word, but personally, I don't even like to use the word Easter. I like to stick with Resurrection Day. And I remember before I was saved, okay, I was in college, and I swear the guy was a devil worshiper. But I had an instructor, and he was always challenging when you're doing your experiments and things. He would always be talking. But I remember it was around Easter time, and he asked people, what is this? Resurrection Day, Easter, what? And most of us, I didn't have a good grip on exactly what it was. It was something that came around in the spring, you know, and it was like, it wasn't, and people couldn't answer. And he just nodded. I swear he smiled a little bit, you know, because you had to know this guy. This guy was dark, right? But anyway, it's the pinnacle of our faith, right? Everything hangs in that. Jesus didn't come out of that tomb, then what are we doing? Okay? We don't have any hope there. And he came out of the tomb after spending, and this has always intrigued me. I haven't unpacked this, but it says in a few places, 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, now interestingly, even in the Jewish Hebrew world, day starts at like sundown, around 6 p.m. Not day, but the calendar day. That's the next day, the beginning of the day. So it goes through the night and then the day. But Jonah and the whale, Jesus referenced that. It's, as far as the crucifixion and the resurrection, it's 3 days and 3 nights. And I'm telling you, there's a mystery there. There's something that there'll be a time God will open that up more for me, but I'm just throwing that out there. That one was free. So with that being the case, that everything hanging on this, what this is, will somebody please tell me what this has to do with bunnies and eggs? And here's a hard thing, because when we have young one, about teaching our children and stuff, that the kids just know there's some fun thing, right? Turn it into some fun thing, and it's hard to say, oh, we're not going to do that, or we're not going to, Well, you know what? Compare what you're talking about here. And you handle this how you want, but I'm just saying, this is the world getting its tentacles in there, mucking with it. If you want to go paint potatoes and go find them and search for them, or eggs, or whatever you want to do it next week. Do it a different time. Don't associate it with Resurrection Day. All right, now, that's been on my heart a long time, but as I was seeking the Lord and seeing how important especially our children are, we're the front line. Right? This is where the rubber meets the road. You used to, the way I picture it in the past, things weren't as corrupt, immoral, whatever, that you might have gotten some help, more help in other places to reinforce what you should be teaching your kids and working with your kids. In sidebar here, okay, we're here and it's now. I like to say that because you can't do anything about the past, all right? So you can understand, I was convicted. I could have done a better job. Not that I totally fell down, but in comparison, there's a lot more I could have done to be more faithful and teach my children more, okay? But to God, this is paramount stuff. And kind of looking at that here, we've got the Old Testament and we've got the New Testament. And I don't know if I got it exactly right, but the Old Testament, geez, got to be a good maybe 3/4. And the New Testament, pretty skinny. Yes, we're under grace, saved by grace, walking with the Lord and all of that, but there's a lot of stuff in that Old Testament that we need to pay attention to. It's given to edify us, to teach us, to give us clues, point us in the direction. Pastor Eric is always saying, how is it? What's concealed in the Old Testament is revealed in the New Testament. I think that's how he states it. But it's a continuous, and I'm not saying it's chronological or whatever, but God had this composed over time by, and I don't know the numbers, how many prophets and things that wrote this, but it's what we need. It's everything we need. There's a lot of things We don't know how big the universe is, so you don't need that, right now. There'll be a day. You can ask God all those questions, things like that, plenty of time for that. But what he's given and provided in this book, that's what we want to do, look at. But what I'm saying is, or trying to say is, don't be cavalier about the Old Testament and kind of dismiss it because that was then, that was for them, that was right. Kind of thing, because you can do that because there's a lot of riches there. So a lot of those principles and God revealing himself there was examples in the Old Testament that we can look at, and we're going to try to look at a few of those in light of teaching our children, because again, kids are hearing about getting exposed to stuff wouldn't even have got whispered in dark corners not too long ago, right? And everything, us as adults, there's so many things I can't even remember because there's new things flooding, just unbelievable. What, who's, right? All these things just coming at you. That's why you got to dig in and get that presence, because those are the headwinds, those are the challenges, those are the things that are gonna come after you. And here's just another little fast sidebar too. You always hear these preachers talking about, oh, you're a preacher, you got a target on your back, this stuff. Well, let me tell you, you just stand there. I have to grin, trying to prepare for the message and spend what time I have to get it, because God gave me pieces and there was things that were on my heart, but to try to sew it together and make sense in some sort of flow, have it coalesce, if you will, was tricky. This stuff rearranged, changed, this in, that out, that's right. But just yesterday, I'm trying to finish up. Now we're getting late in the game. I got yesterday, today, today's the day, right? Well, it turned out two of my daughters with two of our grandkids were going to come over because Wendy needed a lot of help getting furniture, shuffling a lot of furniture. And I hate disruption. Just leave it where it was and where everything was. All these changes, kids running around. You got to watch the kids. Before they got there, she goes up to take a shower and she hollers down, "The water went away." What do you mean the water went away? Well, the well pump quit, right? It's like, really? I got up early. I'm trying to grind through this time. Time is passing here, and I just want to get the message and be able to relax. And honest, I wanted to pray because I get up here. That's another thing. You don't realize you get up here. It's holy ground. And you start, if I just step down there, I can talk to you all day, not get, when I get up here, it's tough. Fighting those, I don't know what to call it, feelings, sense of presence. That's something that kind of overtakes you. And, I just wanted to pray more. Lord, I'm just trying to do your will, just trying to give what you faithfully give, what you've given me to give, right? I'm not trying to make up something, right? But anyway, a few hours, got that result. Thank God it wasn't the doggone pump, it was pressure switch for anybody that's curious. So I was able to resurrect that and get back on track. But now it's the afternoon, right? It's like a lot of time. Yeah, there's always something, and that's sharing with my brother Elliot. It's like he had this fantastic testimony, and what's going on? Well, it seems like the headwinds come around a little stronger then, because it's like, whoops, something's heavy. You can't tamp that down right away, right? It's easier to put out a little fire than a big fire. And it's almost like that's what the enemy thinks like. But if you're coming up here and going to be a preacher, and I fully believe that because I was sharing some of that with Pastor Eric and Brother Greg and whatnot. He goes, oh, that's normal. Now you know the Lord will use you. Oh, really? Thanks. It's like, right? But I'm just saying, stuff challenges. But again, if your mind is just to be faithful to the Lord and do the Lord's will, again, not that you're casual. I mean, I was trying to plan for time, use my time. It wasn't like I was saying, oh, I'll go do all this stuff and I'll get to it later. It wasn't a thing like that, right? But there's a lot of challenges. So anyway, if you want to look, Psalm 78 is a good psalm. There's a lot of back and forth. I'll call it, where it talks about the Israelites and their faithfulness and the great things that they saw. But in Psalm 78, let's just look at verses 3 through 7 there, where it's, and it's, I'll read it. It says, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not conceal them from the children, but tell to the generation to come the praises of the Lord, in his strength and his wondrous works that he has done. For he has established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should teach them to their children, that the generation to come might know, even the children yet to be born. And just pause there. It's pretty clear there. God says children yet to be born. I mean, I know we all believe they're children, but this whole thing about a blob of flesh and all of that kind of stuff, I mean, anyway, picking back up in verse 6, that the generation to come might know, even the children yet to be born, that they may arise and tell them to their children, that they should put their confidence in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments. Okay? So it's important to God, and there's a responsibility for us to try to bring forth our testimonies, what we've learned, share them with our children, let our children see that we're trying to walk righteously. And don't be afraid of that word either. I remember there was a time that it sort of had like this, we used to call it square, or your square, your this kind of negative connotation, like you would like a geek or something like that. But it's not that. It's just you're trying to do the right thing by what God wants and within the bounds of your understanding and the revelation that you've got up to that point, okay? You're going to grow, so each one of us is different. You can't look at Sally or Bob or Bill or whatever. It's what God's doing with you, and walk in that. Walk in the light that you've been given, okay? And then take that, and yes, you should witness and other people like that, but your kids, it's paramount. I almost feel like we're losing the battle as time is going on, because so many things, they have these convincing arguments, science, this and that. I mean, I'm an analytical guy. I got a degree in science. I understand that. I love science, but it's twisted, and you don't hear the whole story, okay? And they're using the rules, the laws. They call this law, that law of physics. All the law is something that they've observed that they haven't seen a deviation from. If something comes up, whoop, that didn't, law's out the window, here's the law now. See, it's not like it's not like those 2 tablets that God wrote on with his finger, okay? And you're talking about the Creator. He created the system. He created those things that we're now seeing play out in our daily lives and universe, and gravity, all the things that happen, right? You don't have to be timid, and if you don't know, you don't know. Somebody can, I've been around a few people in my life, I call them brainiacs. I don't care what you say or what position you take or whatever. If they want to be a little snarky and malicious, they can talk around you, make you look foolish, make you, okay, and you can't just go and cower in your corner, right? You know what you know that God revealed to you, like my knee. Yet I don't care you say it can't. It doesn't matter. I was there. You weren't there, right? God speaks to you and does things, and you got to know somewhere farther out, bigger than those laws and things, it's right in line with what God said and what God is doing. Now, maybe your understanding isn't correct or something, but that's where you keep digging, you keep looking at things and wait before the Lord, right? There's plenty of things that I've come across and that I've learned, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Okay, that's one of those things, just set to the side. Trust God that it's true. It says so, but I'm not seeing how, And then in time, some of those things, the light bulb comes on. Suddenly you gain understanding and you see. You go, oh, okay. Now you, right? This is big, big stuff, but it's not like you have to be that doctorate guy to person to understand it, right? God has made it where the simplest, anybody can do it. My younger brother, you know how he got saved? There was a mentally challenged person he was given a ride to work to, and that guy was a Christian. And in his own simple way, that broke through that shell. I tried for years. He was madder than a wet hen at me, because when I got saved, all my rock and roll albums and whatnot, like putting the, and he wanted them. He says, geez, I can't give them to you. I should just go up and destroy, and man, well, if you're not going to use them, this is right. So we're on the same page now, but I'm just saying, you don't know what simple little thing, what speaks to somebody's heart or who, sometimes a donkey talks, right? You just, I mean, it's really fun if you're walking with the Lord to see what's going to happen today, see what's going to develop, see what he says, all right? But anyway, I'm bunny trailing all over, okay. Where was it? Oh, Deuteronomy 6, starting in chapter 4 is another place. Oops. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And just a sidebar here, I wrote in my Bible, again, not a scholar, but somebody, I think it was PJ, that word one is E-C-H-A-D, Echad. It's not an absolute oneness, it's a composite oneness. There's little hint of the Trinity there, but anyway, that's not what we're looking at right now. It's just, that's another freebie. So hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. And they went a little further, things that were Jewish. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand. They shall be as frontlets on your forehead. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So these things God revealed and was telling them and told them. But the part you can see how diligently he wanted us to teach our children. And again, I'm not saying coop them up for 8 hours, right? But there's a lot of opportunities when your kids are little, they come to cuddle, you're talking, you're reading storybooks, and you can branch out and try to explain, because there's a level. Obviously, a small, younger person can't understand. As you get older, you have more abilities, and there's going to hit a point, right? Even if you're doing that they're going to get challenged, right? That's I know one of the classic places, the kids that are brought up in Christian homes, now you go off to college, or now you go off in the military. I saw that not just with Christianity, but all these, and no offense, goody two-shoes, they behave themselves this and the other. They're the worst ones. They get wilder than a hawk. There's nobody watching, and that's, now you're in the good old boy network where all that kind of nonsense is, that's what we do, rah, and you get a lot of favor from the law in case you mess up, get a ticket, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, it's hard to get it in the heart. I mean, you do the best you can, because that, if it gets a good root, it can persevere. Just like your plants have a bad year or something, if the root is good, it can recover, it can resprout, it can, but they're going to be challenged. So as time is going on, we need to have them prepared there. In the New Testament, in Matthew 19:13, the little children were brought to him that he should put his hands on them and pray. Now, there were some smart parents, right? They saw what was happening. Let's get our kids in that line. And guess what? The disciples rebuked Jesus. We got bigger things to do. What are you messing with that kid for? Right? Now that's a obvious paraphrase. But what did Jesus say? He said, allow the little children to come to me. Do not forbid them, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. They're just so trusting, and they want to believe, and that's how we need to be. And he laid his hands on them, and they departed from there. Now, I think he prayed for them. It doesn't say that. Similar account. Three out of the four Gospels, in Mark 10:14 and in Luke 18:16, it was a similar account. Maybe they were different times, I'm not sure, but the importance of God providing full open access for those kids. And they're not going to be like us if they're small, because again, they've only grown so much. But God's heart is wide open to your children. Okay? It's our job to come alongside and try to do what he's telling us, to help impart, guide, steer. That's what a pastor does. Saying God puts on his heart that we need a little course correction, or we need something quickened, or some encouragement here, or something bad has happened, you need to be encouraged. And then another free thing, the don't forsake the assembling of yourselves coming together. That's where your strength is. It teaches, we need to weep when you're weeping. Come alongside, not saying bad things, but sometimes just a shoulder, and to understand. And we need to rejoice when you're rejoicing. Something great. It's like it happened to me. I'm really, really happy for you, and it's great, right? And what I had in my notes in the first song today, it's about preparation. And again, I'm not trying to guilt anybody, but if you're spending time with the Lord, and even take a little time, like Sunday morning before we we come here, right? I would suggest, I try to do this, that when I first come to, pretty quick, to acknowledge God. Good morning, Abba Father, right? And just think of some of the elements in the Lord's Prayer, not to say it by rote, but just hallowed be your name, for instance. Like, to really understand what hallow and that he's worthy, and start getting that sense. If you have time, you can get a psalm. There's these, Pastor Eric had, I don't know if he has any more of these promise books. You can dig in there, you got something bothering you, or you just want something, find something in there. You can get into the Word, and then you can start, if you've got cross references, you can start seeing a lot of things. Pretty soon you're kind of bubbling up. Your strength is coming. Then you come here, guess what? Then you come to this, in Psalm 100, verse 4, enter his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful and bless his name. See, then we're strong. Then I see you come in and you're dancing in, and it's like, it's catchy. We strengthen each other. We sang that song today. A lot of the songs were things that were on my heart that I felt like the Lord wanted me to speak about. I came across a new word there. I'm not terrible in English, terrible writer, can't spell. I misspell the all the time, believe it or not. It's got to do with the computer keyboard. Yeah, I'll go T-E-H, and it's just one finger because I'm a two finger. Anyway, there's a new word in Psalm 76, verse 4. Now, the daily Bible I currently have is an NAS Bible and version. There's others that are good, and this one, sidebar, bunny trail, but this book right here, see that color, that teal? Okay. I went to order it when we were way back, I don't know how many years ago that was. We were getting new Bibles, and I picked this one out. Well, they didn't have it in leather. You could get bonded leather, but you couldn't get real leather in the teal. And I really wanted the teal. I like teal, okay? When it came, I'll show you. It says genuine leather, right? That was the Lord. That's his fingerprints in my life. It doesn't mean so much maybe to you. Pastor Jack used to tell a story that when he was in New York City before he was a pastor, and they'd go out for lunch, and he went in this bookshop, and it was a pile of books reduced and whatnot, and the Lord spoke to him and said, reach under the pile. And he reached under and pulled out this Bible. It was very special to him his whole life, But just things like that, but I deviated. Anyway, I'm in the NAS version, and it says, let me see if I can even say this, thou art resplendent. And I had to look that up, okay? But it speaks to God's glory and who he is. It means dazzling, shining brilliantly, gleaming. It's his glory, that glory that was on Moses' face after he spent time when they were getting the law and the Ten Commandments. The mountain was quaking. He brought the people up, and the mountain was quaking, and you couldn't touch it. Smoke and fire, and just, if you were there, you'd have no problem going, okay, this really getting a grasp of what kind of hugeness, awesomeness that can control those kinds of things. Touch it, you die, just all that stuff. But, and all of that is just understanding and a fuller respect, because it speaks right now. Nobody, because there'll be times you'll see they saw God, or, the people looked and saw God, whatever it was. Nobody can see his face and live. He's got to tone it down. Whenever that happens, that's not the full who he is. You evaporate. I don't even know if evaporate is the right word. It's intense, okay? Personally, I've caught a couple little glimmers of that. That's way beyond what's easy to describe, but when we get to heaven, then you'll see them full on. But that's back to keeping the sense and respect and appreciation for who he is and what he's done for you, for everyone, but for you. And I know, back to the morning thing or whenever you have your quiet time, sometimes it can feel like a burden. How can that be? You've had all these great experiences, it's like, and if you push through it, you find that gets pushed back. Like when the day dawns and the darkness gets pushed back. But it's easy, to roll over, give yourself a break, if I can say that, but we're human. We fall short. Not that you want to be casual. We have fallen short. We are falling short. We will fall short. We'll goof up, but I know people go, okay, just so I can just go do what I want because God, His grace is sufficient. No. You don't want to be casual about it, but it happens to us who aren't being casual for whatever reason. But that's where His faithfulness, His forbearance, tolerating to an incredible degree, right? Now, there's places in the Bible they definitely went over the line, and bad things happened, okay? So, but I'm just saying it is us sitting in the seats, coming together. Try to keep walking. If you stumble, get back up. The Lord is there. Turn around. Just sorry, you don't have to hang your head, be ashamed, Just get up and start going forward again, okay? It's so sweet. I don't know how else to say that. I've had good friends. I've had, if you get one of them miffed or you have they might be forgiving, but it takes a while. It's not like that with him. Okay, it is not like that. He's there. You can trust. It's filled. You can go through a lot of places, and if you find those places, and again, ruminate, chew on them, go over them, you're good. You're back good. Okay. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy burdened. I will give you rest. Take my yoke on you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, isn't that a mind blower? God is meek, but he is. He's got all power. He's got all this, and he's humble, and he's not looking to lord it over you. To maybe that's the wrong words, but it's not like an in-your-face kind of thing. He's gentle, and loving. That's I can't say that enough. In Galatians 6:7, as far as being lackadaisical, and you need to judge where you're at and how you've been walking and holding God. What kind of esteem do you have for God in your heart? It says, "Don't be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will reap." Okay, it's you're not getting over on God. There's no tricking him or this, something. Luke 12:48. Here's a toughie. "For to whomever much is given, of him much shall be required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they'll ask the more." Luke 19:26. "For I say to you that everyone who has, more will be given. And from him who has not, even that which he has will be taken away from him. So if you are walking faithfully with the Lord, you're going to grow. There's no neutral. You're slipping or fading, or you're growing. But as you grow, there's going to be more expected of you. But and that can sound like, well, I got enough on my plate. It's not a thing like that, because God always comes alongside you and provides you the means and the ability to do that. But I would caution you. I think back to the Hebrews. They came out of Egypt. All the miracles they saw to get out of Egypt, the plagues, the death angel, the water out of the rocks, man out of heaven, all this stuff, quail falling out of the sky, all these things. You saw miraculous things, the seas parting, all of that. So God calls Moses up to the mountain, and he displayed himself to a degree. Like I said, the mountain quaking, this, that, and the other thing. Moses goes up and has a long conversation with God. And guess what? They got impatient. They start going, we don't know what happened to Moses. That was great when he was around, but we don't know what happened to him. So, and let me see in Exodus, because there's one thing I can't believe it. And I want to say, I hope we would do better than that, but you know what? I can be just as stupid as the next guy. I don't know how, but it can happen, and that's where if you're not casual and lazy and whatnot, just get back up and go with the Lord. But Exodus 19, Moses called God up to the mountain again. Where was it? Oh, it's in 30, sorry. That's where he's up getting the commandments. It's actually 32, sorry. Verse 32. This is when, and I'll just start, it's not too many verses in. Now, from verse 1. Now, when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people assembled about Aaron and said to him, "Come make us a god who will go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." Now, Moses might have got picked to lead him out, but it was Moses that brought him out? It was God that brought him out, right? And this isn't that long a time. You want some guy, you just saw the mountain smoking and quaking and smoking, you just walk through an ocean on dry land, I just like, but again, you want to stay humble. If I was there, how would I wasn't there. So Aaron, second in charge, he goes, "Tear off the gold rings in your ears from your wives, your daughters, bring them to me." And they did that. And he took them from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made it into a molten calf. And then he said, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt." Really? Just to start with, I've always wondered, you're out in the desert or the sticks or whatever, if somebody handed you a pile of gold, do you think you could fashion it into something? There was some effort here, right? This wasn't a casual, like, oh, look at that. That looks like a person, and pick up a rock. This was actively going against what you just saw, what you've recently experienced. Somehow it had faded that quick. It just blows my mind. And then in verse 5 it says that when Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord." Really? This is how can it just, And there's all kinds of places where you see people, fantastic things happened. Was it Elijah? Great things, the fire and Jezebel and all that stuff. Then he bolts, right? He bolts in the wilderness, angels minister to him, whatever. He gets in a cave, and God says, Elijah, what are you doing? He says, all these people are after me, I'm the only one, and he's crying out. And God goes, come to the mouth of the cave. He goes out. Wind, so strong, it's busting the rocks. I mean, earthquake, fire, just, right? But God wasn't in those things, it says. And then the still small voice, which is one of the primary ways he speaks to us today. He says, what are you doing here? Right? He says, get up. And then he told them, go. And, he says, I've still got 7,000 people. I haven't met the need of any of this. He says, get back on it. I got word for you. And he sent them back off. But I just mean, you see people that, it's one thing. You say, oh, Jezebel, she was always this twisted spirit or something. Elijah? I mean, how many things had he seen? But he got overcome in the situation. But I mean, he stepped right out of this fantastic deliverance of all the false gods and fire coming down, burning up the wood, the rock, the water, the whole, And then he goes, he got a chill up his spine, he bolts. Now, I'm not saying again, I wasn't there. Would I have done much better? I ask you. But the thing is, don't do it. But if you do it, get back up, repent, turn to the Lord, be reassured of his love, and start walking again there. That impatience. Lamentations 3:22 says it is by the Lord's kindness that we were not destroyed, because his mercies never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. There's another thing I like to do in the morning. Thank you for the fresh mercy, right? May not have ended well yesterday. Slate is clean again. Let's march forward. So I'll just say it again. This is the way we can help our kids, affect our society, you don't have to go lift weights, do anything, but just be diligent. Take what you have and let it grow. And you'll be given more light and more things, okay? So strengthen our personal walk so we're in a position to help others and to show forth that love of God, okay? And it is rewarding, but we don't do it because it's rewarding. We do it because he deserves it. So, in closing, the Lord bless you and keep you today and going forward. So, well, yes, dear. It's great to have a faithful spouse. So you can stop the